Welcome back, Lelanders, to a new episode of Gravity Well research regarding can Mars solve the mystery of human sacrifice? Now, if anyone's eating breakfast, you probably don't want to watch this show. Maybe save it, watch it later. Because, dear God, I think I'm ready to hurl, and I ate, so I probably should have waited. But anyways, we had a guest on the Magi show. What was it, on last Friday? Art Olivier. And he was sharing some information about a September 11th ley line that's connected to human sacrifice. And to be honest, I didn't really gather everything that we talked about while we were doing the stream. And then after I watched the replay, I was like, holy shit, man. There was a lot of things that we didn't cover and I should have asked more questions about, but I didn't know until after watching it a second time. So I figured today we'll do a little bit of a follow-up. Can Mars actually solve the mystery of human sacrifice? So where to begin? Alright, so basically what happened, here's just the Mars ley line pattern. I decided to open the show with it, but we'll come back to it in a second. We'll have to cover a little bit of what we covered on the show last time with Art, and to give you a little bit of an establishing of what the heck I'm talking about here. Alright, so if you flip back and forth between Earth and Mars on the ley line pattern, you can see that our planets, surprisingly or not surprisingly, have a lot of things in common that I don't think many academics have either established or just aren't talking about. I'm not sure exactly why. Could be a giant cover-up, or it could be just sheer incompetence. Like, it really took me years of looking at this before I had any idea either, so I'm pretty sure I'm about 4 years in, so 80 hours a week, 4 years. It took me that long to even grasp it, so maybe that's why it's taking so long. But anyways, if you look at the Earth itself, you can see that our equator, this line here, is the traditional equator line on the planet. It was actually the first question I ever recall asking my dad about a topographic globe. He showed me a globe, and first thing I asked is, why does the equator have a ridge going to it, right? I was always wondering, why does a ridge line up with the equator? And my dad, rightfully so, going by the scientific terminology at the time, said it's just a coincidence. There's no actual reason why there's a ridge on the equator. And you can almost see that once you got the gravity well line patterns in there, you can start to see where all these ridges are lining up. And it's not just the equator ones. We also have a prime meridian ridge. So, and it's odd that it doesn't turn at the same point as it used to, which makes me think that the planet's shape has either changed or shifted in the past. But anyways, when the guest came onto the show, we were discussing one line that happens to connect all the September 11th attacks. So I'll bring up this line here. See if we got it here. September 11th. Ah, here it is. Damn, man. Can't find the freaking line for it. Nah, sorry everyone. I got so many different line patterns on here. I thought I put it right at the top. I guess I did not. Oh, I know. I put it in a different folder. Alright, so we'll bring up my version of the September 11th line. And it's actually with the help of Art Olivier. If you want to check out his videos, he's got some really good ones on YouTube. That's who I first heard about this September 11th ley line. There it is, the ancient folder. There it is, September 11th. Alright, so this September 11th ley line is marked in green. And as you can see, it doesn't fall directly on the established ley line pattern now or gravity well pattern, but it does line up with the ones from the past. Here, I'll bring up the ones from the past. So I started to map the ancient ley line pattern. It's lined out by, what is it, buildings like the pyramids, and those are the ones in purple. So you can see the purple one actually does line up very close. And I asked Art, he wasn't sure either, why the ancient ley line pattern and why the modern one of today's actual measurements are slightly off. You can see that it's almost the identical pattern, but in some spots it's just like it needs to shift a slight amount. So I'm pretty sure one of his explanations was maybe the tectonic plates shifting on the planet. I'm not so sure that's what it is. I often wonder if the planet's size has actually changed. Because I noticed too, even if you do the shift over, that it still doesn't line up really unless the planet shrank a little. So there is the expanding Earth theory. People talk about the hollow Earth and how the Earth could be growing in size. So I think it's more into that direction, but not to say that I know for sure. I'm just guessing at this point for that. Alright, so what we'll do is this September 11th line, we'll just zoom in. I noticed in the replay that we didn't go over it too much in detail, so I will again. The Boston airport is where the line begins. Well, it actually begins all the way at Stonehenge, but it continues to the Boston airport. Then it goes through, where was it? New York, the location of the World Trade Centers, or where they used to stand. And it also goes right over the Pentagon. Now, actually, Art, when he was on the show, he was showing where the final spot lands in, whatchamacallit, Mexico. And he put it right to, like, this one temple location he has. One of these days, I'll have to take this point and map it to exactly where he showed it ends at. Wow. So yeah, one of these days I'll do that in the future. But one of the things that we started to cover in the episode is I didn't really clue in at first, but after I watched the replay, we were talking a lot about how these lines or ancient ley lines often crisscross across volcanoes. So then I started to think about it after I was watching the replay. I was like, wait a minute, ancient cultures used to always throw people into volcanoes because they said it was something to do with the gods demanding sacrifice. And if people think that's a hell of a stretch to think that the gods require sacrifice and what for, we could check out some of the images that I showed during the last show. Is one of the First Nations legends talk about how, what is it, North America is Turtle Island. And I think it was Jacob, if you want to check out his video on YouTube, great First Nations guy sharing his history. And he talks about how the legends or story goes, or history goes, that the First Nations people were asked to behead a giant and tie it to the tail of Turtle Island. And he pointed out how South America looks slightly like an elephant's head. So what I did is I took an image of an elephant and overlaid it on South America just to get an idea of how it looks. So let me remove the yellow lines for a second so we can see a little clearer. So as you can see, like the trunk of this elephant even finishes in the shape of the little spot. You know, an elephant's trunk sort of looks like a mouth or a V. That's also how this one ends. And there was a story that Jacob was talking about how the elephant, his neck where it was cut happens to be right here on Gibraltar. So I'll show the other image to clarify that some. And what he was saying, why it's important about that is because the Mediterranean is actually warm water and it continues to flow out of where the elephant's head was cut, sort of like the neck, how it would spurt out blood. Alright, North Wolverine. Anomaly. For God's sakes, why is that image not there? Alright, so I'll have to go into my image folder, see if I can open it without any hot babes boobs showing up. Let's hope. Oh God. I think we're okay. Alright, so there we go. Sorry, I have no idea how those images got there. But anyways, yeah, let's go here and I'll show up the image that I thought I had loaded, but I'll just go grab it anyways. As you can tell, I'm not very well organized, so when it comes to finding things, it's a little bit of a challenge. And I've got a bit of bad memory, so that doesn't help much either. Alright, there we go. So we'll just get a quick image and show how on what I'm talking about here. Well, I can't make it full screen. Alright, so if you take Turtle Island and the elephant head and you reattach it back to where it was cut off from, you can see why Gibraltar has warm water. It would literally be flowing right out where the elephant's neck would be. And this sacrifice ritual that created our planet is not only known in First Nations culture, but it's known in Hindu, the Chinese, and obviously the indigenous people of America. So that's where I was kind of like, holy crap, man. And some people laugh. It's like, is there any more evidence to show that this thing, our continent, really was an elephant's body? If you look at where the elephant's legs are, like Africa and its back hind legs, you end up with a location where its procreative organs would be, like so forth. And you've probably noticed that the procreation part of the elephant happens to be where the human's most densely or biggest population of people is located. So I don't know if that's also a coincidence that the water is flowing out of the elephant's neck like blood, and the procreative organs happens to be where humans have the largest, densest population of people. Maybe not densest, but I guess at least the largest. I always thought, if anyone knows in the chat, is it a tie between China and India? Or I'm pretty sure India is still in the lead for the biggest population. Could be wrong about that. But anyways, so that's the one slide. And just to clarify here, where the ley line research comes in to prove it even more, is you take the location, you can sort of see if you overlap the two, the eye would somewhere be around here, and it's actually the ley lines that place the elephant's eye precisely. So let's bring up the ley line pattern and we'll show you. So we can see the eye of the elephant is located right here. And it just so happens to be where the giant fork in the Amazon River is located. Because it's weird, these gravity wall, it's not really weird, these gravity wall lines often influence the shape of the planet. So you'll find mountains, continents, rivers, all forming with their influence. It's basically evidence for graviton exchange. Scientists for centuries, since the days of Einstein, have been debating Einstein's theory. He believes that, hey, Geltonink, yeah, rest in peace for the giant elephant. That's what I was going to say, like the tears that are flowing down actually make up the Amazon River. My friend from Argentina was trying to tell me, hey, the Amazon River might not be flowing in that direction, and then I showed it to him, he's like, oh fuck, that's right, it does flow in that direction. So really, the Amazon River appears to be the tears of the elephant's head. So yeah, that's pretty messed. Sorry I got off on a sidetrack there and forgot what I was saying. But anyways, yeah, so this elephant and the sacrifice that occurred started me to realize that, hey, this sacrifice ritual that's going around on the planet is pretty intense, right? Like, we like to joke that human sacrifice was something stupid that the ancient people did, and they had no ideas why they were doing it. That's when I started to realize this sacrifice ritual and these ley lines, like, hey, if one of them has all of the September 11th attacks on it, that's almost the same thing as our leaders in the ancient time. Instead of throwing people in the volcano, they're just doing sacrifices on the ley line. And not to say that it's a raging conspiracy theory, because those are not allowed on YouTube. So what I would like to say is it's probably just a coincidence. We're just exploring this idea and trying to find out that it's not a conspiracy. That's what we're trying to do here. So anyways, what came across as interesting during the show as well is during the ancient line pattern, let's bring it back up on the screen. One of the things that I noticed with the ancient line pattern is our sites in Canada, the one that I first got into this research visiting, happens to be a spot. Here it is. The world's technically oldest Stonehenge, or standing stones in the world, happens to be located right here. And I'm not sure if they actually did sacrifices here, but I have confirmed that the holy mountain that I usually walk to on vision quests, that's about 30 kilometers or 10 kilometers, something like that, away from the Stonehenge site, it is established to be used for human sacrifice. And I guess I should show the slide that confirms that. Don't have it ready, so you'll have to give me a sec. I'll boot it up here. It actually comes from the French version of the website, so if you look it up on the English Wikipedia, you won't find it. But if you look it up in the French one, surprisingly, there's always seems to be some French connection where French people are really in on a lot of this information. Not saying there's a conspiracy or anything, but it's very interesting how that works out. All right, so what happened was this location on the Holy Mountain so happens to have a human sacrifice mystery that they've been trying to solve since the 70s. So we'll bring that up. There it is. It's actually the French one that comes up first. That's cool. Alright, so we'll confirm the evidence for this ritual occurring on Mount Kemenus or Mount Cauldron. And if people are wondering why it's called Mount Cauldron in French, I know the official reason is that it sort of resembles a witch's cauldron, but the cauldron also happens to be the symbol or symbology for sacrifice. So I don't know if witches still do the sacrifices in their cauldrons. Probably not. That's maybe boiled down over the years. But yeah, in the ancient times. Alright, so yeah, big shout out to the First Nations people for sharing their history. I know it was hard to find out about the history of the sacrifice there because a lot of it still isn't talked about. But I had a guest on the show a few years ago now, came on to clarify some of it. Alright, so this is known as Expedition Hudson Bay. Oh yeah, here it is. It has that the mountain was used as a place of sacrifice by the inhabitants of the area. The ancestors of this place, the Anishinaabe, Oske, the Ojibwe, and... Sorry, I can't pronounce these words. I tried my best. Yeah, but a big shout out to them. Thank you for sharing their history. If anyone's able to help them out monetarily for their sharing their history, really appreciate it. Alright, so... the last, hopefully it's not a sacrifice, is there was a person that died just a few years ago, 2019. Sadly, a teenager fell. So that might not be related. Let's hope not to the sacrifice stuff, as far as I know. Here it is. In July of 1955, the body of a man was found on this sacrifice place with no head. Both hands and right foot, or without both hands and a right foot. Ugh. Alright, so yeah, very close to him was a hunting rifle, no cartridge in the chamber. The clothes were city clothes. So I don't know, back in those days, I guess a lot of loggers and miners all wore the same clothes. So that if you went there with city clothes, you would stand out. So apparently this guy that was killed in a human sacrifice on the mountain was from the city. Alright, and the problems that they had solving the mystery, if it was murder or suicide or sacrifice, is that no body or no person was ever reported missing. So that was a hard part to solve the case. I don't know if they were ever, I guess they were never able to identify the body either. Because yeah, if you had no one reported missing, and that would definitely make it a harder case to solve. No, I've actually been up on the top of the mountain after they had that giant fire, and I happened to find a sacrificial offering table, and people debated with me if it was one or not. But then some other people familiar with the ancient history believe that I was on to the right spot for it. I'm going to release a travel vlog within the next few weeks. I've been trying to finish it, but I've been working overtime at work a lot lately. Yeah, Jelton's talking about it. Yeah, coincidences. No, we're going to have to say coincidence for a lot of this stuff because YouTube is definitely not into conspiracy research, so we'll just have to say it's a coincidence. Definitely not a conspiracy. So anyways, what else isn't a conspiracy is, yeah, you take that sacrificial line and follow it, and it goes all the way down to Easter Island. If anyone's been to Easter Island before, I don't know if they have a history of sacrifice on that island, but I'm starting to almost guarantee that they do. Let's see, where is it? There it is. Yeah, so it goes all the way to Easter Island. And the oddest part about this thing too is the ancient line that goes through Easter Island has those giant statues. What are they called? The moai, or Moya or something like that. Oh yeah, and it's got volcanoes. So yeah, I started to realize that this place up north and the one like Easter Island and all these places on the lines, like this is a freaking giant volcano, right? This Mount Kemenus. So I started to realize that, hey, we're starting to see a pattern here. Volcanoes, human sacrifice, and on the ley line are all always connected. And it's freaking me out, to be honest. Because like I got into researching ley lines and I had no idea that it was going to take this dark of a turn in the research. But I can't really throw in the towel and just stop talking about it. I really feel like I should share it, so hopefully we can prevent more of these similar disasters from happening. So what Art did is he started to go over different locations all over North America and showing how all like the different killings and awful shootings and horrible fires that have these weird mysteries are often always landing right on the ley lines. So yeah, that was kind of freaking me out. So then I decided to say, hey, let's turn off some of these lines and go check out what's been happening on Mars, right? So we'll get back to the Mars connection. Alright, where is that one? Mars is, I've got a whole bunch of the different files, but the one I like to load the best for Mars is the topographical one. And where is it? Mars, here it is, Mars topographic. So yeah, if you look at where the ley line pattern is currently on Mars, you can see that Mars's largest volcanoes are also located on these ley lines in oddly striking ways, right? So yeah, that's when I started to really put 1 and 2 together and started to realize that, hey, it's like this idea that ley lines and volcanoes and sacrifice are not only occurring on Earth, but other planets as well. Well, obviously not the sacrifice element, unless we find evidence for prior civilization on Mars. Then we would know exactly where people on Mars were sacrificing. Yeah, so the one thing that really started to freak me out now is we covered in the show a little bit earlier about how it's volcanoes that are on these lines and that sacrifices are occurring on them. So should we be looking at these lines and where they go today to see if we can prevent or predict where future apocalypses or sacrifices will occur? Alright, so thanks, Jelton. He said he's got to take his wife to work. I appreciate you tuning in and joining the chat. Yeah, it's all good. Hopefully this one should be in the archive. I noticed that YouTube did flag this type of research as not good for monetization, except for limited monetization. And then they did play some commercials like horror stuff. So I was like, okay, but I might just turn off monetization again. I did it with Art's video. I just turned it off because I don't want to risk the information being gone. I don't think any amount of money would actually be worth losing all the research. So, hey, as much as I need the money, I'll just turn off the monetization if that's what it takes. Alright, no, I'm not really doing the greatest financially, health-wise, and looking after family that's sick and almost getting paid nothing to do it. So, yeah, it's definitely rough times, but hey, you do what you gotta do. Alright, so anyways, what I realized is when I flip off the Mars one, and when we were covering it on the show, sorry, I was trying to cover this on the show, and I accidentally had Art's image blocking a lot of what I was talking about. So we'll look at it again. It's basically if you turn the ley line map sideways and then you bring it up to see what cities are falling on it. It's not just North America. This appears to be like a whole type of like worldwide phenomenon where our largest cities in the world, like Beijing, Macau, Pyongyang, basically every huge major city also happens to fall on these ley lines. And in the past, when I realized that, Hong Kong, I started to think to myself, remember the Matrix movie? They got that new trailer coming out for people who haven't seen the Matrix before. How people in the Matrix, when they got outside the Matrix, they were actually like plugged into battery ports. Like Neo, when he had to escape the Matrix, he had to like rip the wires and cables out of them. So that's what I started to think at that time, was maybe all these cities happen to be on the ley lines because there's some sort of energy that's being tapped from people into the grid. So it's like just like the matrix batteries. And then I was kind of hoping at the time that it was like for something good, right? Like, hey, maybe all this energy is being used for good. It's helping keep our planet stable. And then I started to think, oh, maybe it has nothing to do with any of that, but it's just because the geographical features. Because like here, if you zoom out and you look at how Australia is shaped, you can see that the ley line pattern is definitely influencing the shape of land. It's like it even splits New Zealand there. And you can see the same thing occur in the bottom of Asia. You can see how it's like splitting the Persian Gulf. Oh yeah, and there was one thing I wanted to really show on when Art was on, and I didn't get to it, is the largest gravity well here under Africa is very similar to the one in the Gulf of Mexico, that there's a giant depression around it. And science has always been trying to figure out what the hell is causing it. Sometimes they say it's like a meteor impact or whatever. So for the longest time, science made it like a database of all the largest theoretical meteor impacts. And I'll bring them up on. You can guess where I'm leading with this. I'll bring it up. Meteor impacts. There we go. I got to rename these folders because a lot of them are the scientific terminology and it makes it way harder for me to look it up. Oh, here it is. That's not too bad. Earth Impact Crater Database. So it just so happens that the biggest, largest impact crater location that they called a crater at first, it turns out to be exactly on the fucking orb point from the gravity well map. So that kind of freaks me out is when you click here, it says, let's try. It gives you information. Come on, give me the information here. Don't hold back. There we go. That's the one thing I don't like about Google Earth is a lot of times you try to click on stuff, it's very fidgety. It's like, come on, man, just give me the frickin' data. Anyways, if you're able to click on this red line, it'll give you the information about it. Come on. It's like it shows me where I can grab when I'm zooming, but if I stop zooming, it just goes away. All right, let's take away the yellow lines. Maybe that'll help. All right, for some reason, they're not giving the data if I click on it. But normally when you click on it, it'll give you the data. And, oh yeah, here it is. It says blue is considered suspected craters, and then red is rejected. So they realize that there's a huge giant depression here, but now they've been able to rule out the theory that it was a meteor impact. So they don't believe it was a meteor, but they're trying to figure out why there's a giant depression here. So we can see that with the Gulf of Mexico as well, Hudson Bay. Different regions that they thought originally were meteor impacts, but turned out to not be. Yeah, that's the wild one. If anyone knows that ring there, that's the one where Alaska or Anchorage gets hit with like the 10-pointer earthquakes. So it's interesting that that gravity well line there has like a giant impact projected. But no, really the biggest one is that one. So I don't think it's a coincidence that that occurs in that location. All right, so let's move on from that and let's go to the crater lines, or the, what do they call it, the titanic plates, or titanic, however you say it. No, sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing words, so if I get them all wrong, you can get a good laugh out of it. All right, the titanic plates, where is it? Ah, here it is. I think hopefully I got rid of the old ones because I've got a whole bunch of titanic plate line files, and oh yeah, this is the shitty one. That's the bad one that I was hoping to get rid of so I wouldn't click it by accident. Hurricane, magnetic sphere, Smithsonian. Magnetic field. Come on, do I really not have it anywhere here easy to find? Alright, I'll just have to read it. Well, Crater Database, Grand Tour, Ancient Sightlines, Volcanoes. Alright, the only thing I can think of is maybe I got it in this folder. I'll just have to open it manually. Oh, there it is. Plate boundaries. Hopefully this is it. No, this is not it. Damn it, man. Sorry, everyone. I'll try to get these more organized for the next show. No, that's not it either. Can't believe I lost my most important file for today's show. Oh, God. Alright, so why is it not listed anywhere? This is crazy. Earth's magnetic, Washington. No, what I'll do in the future is when I get these shows, I'll try to organize it in a better manner. Because really, this is really getting ridiculous. I got like hundreds of different files, and I'm trying to look through them all, and I can't find them when I need them. Yeah, it's literally gone. So I dropped it in one of the other menus by accident, and I'll never find it because it could be buried in hundreds of different folders. Fuck's sakes, man. Man, that really pisses me off. Alright, so let me just try opening the file, maybe. If I got another folder. Come on, get off of there. That's how I figure, right? If I lose the file, I can just like import it again. Oh god, I don't have it in this either. Alright, so I'm gonna have to download the file live on the air because I can't fucking find it in the folders. Earth, Titanic, or plate lines. KMZ. Yeah, so if anyone's looking for it, just type in Earth, plate lines, KMZ. And yeah, I should be able to download it because for some reason I keep fucking losing the folder for it. Alright, this should do the trick. Instead of bitching, just solve the problem, right? There we go. There it is. Why my folder called plate lines vanished before? Who gives a shit? At least I got it back now. Alright, so I'll put it next to the Earth impact craters. Hopefully I won't lose it there next time. Alright, so let's get rid of a lot of these other shitty ones that are on here. Alright, so basically this folder kind of proves that the gravity well line pattern is very accurate when you start to look at how gravities are actually shaping the plate formations. You can see that when it splits at the different lines, you can see that we've basically got the same measurement between here and here as between here and here. And where else is good examples of it interacting with the planet? Yeah, you can see that on certain gravity well lines, it is mapping up still identically. Like here, it almost split right across. I think India's got a few good ones. There's the one there. So I bet you when it comes to the plate line cracks on Mars, I don't know if they've released a file for that yet. I'll have to check if they do. But the folder or this plate line crack does seem to match the ridge lines going across the equator as well. So you can see not only does the equator run across this line, the plate lines run across this line, ridge lines run across this line. So you start to see that that's why I'm getting at where these ley lines are connected to gravity is how closely they're mapping the shape of the planet. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll start to look at some of the different cities that across the globe that are lining up on these lines. Ones that you can look at in the future that could be experiencing more sacrifice. I hope not. So, well, let's bring up the ancient one. Ancient, I was just at it. Alright, there it is. Ancient purple lines. I'm going to turn off the September 11th line. There it is. And we'll turn off Mexico to Stonehenge, because that's one of the ones that really doesn't fit the map very well unless you change the shape of the planet. But anyways, so if you look at some of these cities that are on these like lines of sacrifice, you have Ottawa, and this is another thing the guest Art Olivier was talking about, is that these ancient ley line patterns often go through obelisks. So we'll see what is the obelisk that it goes through in Ottawa. We have our Peace Tower. So if anyone's been to Ottawa, we have this giant clock tower in the shape of an obelisk, and it's part of the obelisk map. So one of the places for sacrifice could be Ottawa. Alright, so the next one, well, we got Kingston. If anyone's heard of Kingston, big city. The next one would be Rochester and Toronto. And Toronto just so happens to go through, you might have guessed it, Art was kind of debating with me. I'm more on the lines of believing that the Toronto CN Tower happens to be the largest man-made obelisk on the planet. You can see here the CN Tower. I think the Russia has a CN Tower as well, right? We should almost look up. I think theirs burnt down. Like it's the same style obelisk running right through it. Well, I won't get too distracted. Let's come back to that in a second. So you got there. I'll have to check to see if Rochester has an obelisk somewhere. If anyone's from that region and they know of an obelisk in Rochester, maybe they could let us know. I'm not really familiar with that part. Oh yeah, and then Art was also pointing out how airports often make up weird patterns with these ley lines. So we can see that this airport, what is it, Rochester's International Airport, connects with it. Art did an amazing job talking about the ley line that goes through the Denver International Airport. I won't get into that one with much more detail. People can just look that one up. What was the other obelisk? Oh yeah, Washington. So if anyone's heard of the Washington obelisk, I also have the Washington layout built by either the Freemasons or someone else unrelated. Let's spin that so you can see what we're talking about. Now, often you look up Freemason critical videos, and Freemasons like to debunk the idea that they have nothing to do with the all-seeing eye on the back of the bill for the U.S. Let's see if I got a bill here. Yeah, I do. Now, I got this from a person from the States a number of years ago. So you can see the all-seeing eye, and it's got some order out of chaos. That's what I was thinking. Oh, wait, is it order out of chaos? And it shows the all-seeing eye in the pyramid capstone. So that's one of the layouts you have here, is not only does the line of sacrifice go through the giant obelisk, but it also connects as part of like the Washington layout, how they put the all-seeing eye. And if anyone wants to guess what the building is in the all-seeing eye, kind of debunks the idea that the Freemasons were not involved in it. Let's check out what it is. The all-seeing eye turns out to be the Supreme Council, the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemasonry, the House of the Temple. And this is actually where Albert Pike is buried, his tomb. Some people debated me that Albert Pike's tomb is no longer there, that it's been moved somewhere else. I don't know. I've never been there, so if any Freemasons know for sure if it is or not, they could put it in there if they think Albert Pike's still in there. No, the Albert Pike, I got involved reading his research before I even knew he was a Freemason, because what happened is a long time ago when I was about 10 years old, I had an encounter with the Amesha Spenta, or what they call the light beings. Basically, all these rituals and sacrifices are supposed to enable people to transform their bodies into pure energy, like those science fiction. I think Stargate did an episode about it. Star Trek did an episode about it. It's almost the apex of every religion in history. Eventually, you work your way up to the point where your body evolves into pure energy. So when I started researching like who did the best research on the Amesha Spenta, on these light beings that I encountered, I found out that it was Albert Pike. So I read quite a bit of his work about it, and then eventually I found out that he was a Freemason. I was like, wow, that's kind of weird, right? So maybe this idea of the Freemasons trying to transform their bodies into light, requiring sacrifice, could have something to do with this giant sacrifice layout on our planet. I hope not. Yeah, that'd be quite the ritual to think of it. If some of these world's elites or the Freemasons, or I don't want to bash all Freemasonry. I know a lot of Freemasons are nice, good people. They do lots of charity work. similar to biker gangs, how they often do a lot of great charity work. So I'm sure there's always going to be good Freemasons and evil Freemasons, just like any other group of people. And I don't believe they're all in on it, because Freemasonry actually has so many denominations that one lodge really has no idea what the other lodges are doing. And I highly doubt that they could organize everything without anyone finding out. It'd be quite fantastic if that was really the case. But so anyways, so that's one of the other ones, is we got the Washington layout. Oh yeah, and then here I was thinking, if anyone's a big Coast to Coast AM fan, hey, potato memes, enemy airstrikes inbound. Yeah, how's it going, man? Oh shit, yeah, I forgot you're in the Middle East. I fucking sure hope everything's okay there. Man, yeah, I don't know, should we check where potato memes is from? I think, where did he say he's from? If you want to put it in the chat, we could check out to see where the sacrifices are going to be here. Now, if anyone's wondering like where some of these ancient lines go through, like this one here, the purple lines, let's move off the Titanic plates, because we're really getting carried away with how many lines we got on the screen. All right, let's remove the plate boundaries. I think we covered that enough. So potato memes, he's in the Middle East region. Oh yeah, I was going to say this purple line, let's remove the yellow ones. This is actually how I first started to draw the map. Is researchers shared with me this line across the west coast, and I watched a movie about this line. And if anyone's wondering what this line connects, there's another French guy did a video about it, and his name, can't remember, but if you want to check it out, his movie is called the Revelations of the Pyramids. So I highly recommend buying that, giving him some money for his research. I think, yeah, Art and these guys, they definitely deserve a lot of credit for everything they've been sharing. I don't really like to share it and have them not get any recognition for it. So anyways, this other line that Revelations of the Pyramids released goes through this one, the Easter Island. It goes through the Nazca lines. It goes through, what do we got here? The Great Pyramid of Egypt. Where is it? So I should really know where the Great Pyramid is from space. You know, sometimes it's hard to keep. It should be, Cairo. Should be around here, right? Fuck it. Let's just type it in. Great Pyramid of Giza. Actually, one of my buddies that does the Adept Initiates page, this is actually where he is right now. He's in Egypt. There it is. Yeah, so it goes through the Great Pyramid. I should move it right on the center. Got it slightly off. So yeah, it goes through those places. And what's the next big one that it goes through? Obviously, it goes through other ancient sites, but normally what we'll try to do is just focus on the really well-known ones, because people will be like, hey, that's well-known. Well, let's go to Angkor Wat. Angkor Wat, Cambodia. Now, I don't know if Angkor Wat also has the history of sacrifice. I haven't really looked in too much. I had some friends that were supposed to visit there, but the trip got canceled. Yeah, so it also goes through Angkor Wat. So this is where we can start to see that all these pyramids really are associated with sacrifice rituals, because they're on the sacrifice lines. So yeah, that's the one in Angkor Wat. I guess we'll go through the New Zealand ones, or Papua New Guinea and Australia divides it. Oh, New Caledonia. If I had to guess, there's a tradition of human sacrifice here as well. Could be wrong about that. I know, was it Papua New Guinea? They also have a culture of eating people. So, I know I had a friend who grew up as a missionary there. Yeah, and if anyone's wondering, like this great line that, what is it? Well, the one I just talked about, Revelations of the Pyramid, it does have a little bit of a wobble to it. So when he says it's a perfectly straight line, I noticed it does wobble a little. And I've noticed that with like a lot of the ancient lines, they tend to have a wobble. Whereas if you compare it to like the traditional gravity well line map, like the one that actually uses today's measurements, it has less of a wobble, sometimes no wobble. So that's the one thing that I don't like about this research. You can't say it's 100% scientific, because when we're saying these lines are straight, it's arguably straight. I don't know, some people debate if it's something wrong with Google Maps and that's why it's wobbling a little, because they have to change something in order to fit it on the map. I know flat earth researchers often say the reason for the wobble is it's supposed to be on a flat map. I'm kind of a little bit skeptical of that idea, but to say the least. I don't know, I was hoping to get Eric Dubai on the show sometime to get him to talk about the different research he has for the theory that it's more of a flat plane, but I doubt that a lot. So I don't know, I try to give him some credit because he does come up with a lot of interesting information. I'm not saying that the information proves it one way or the other, but he does find a lot of interesting like anomalies. So yeah. Oh yeah, one of the other anomalies, that line that goes through Easter Island, happens to stop at Flower Pot Island. And Flower Pot Island is where Canada also has those giant statues that look like the Moai, but they're not man-made. They're just the naturally occurring. But they also have a history of giants. So even though the Easter Island one has a history of giants and this one has a history of giants, there's also another place in, oh yeah, Sudbury. That could be another place that's on the ley line close enough. Yeah, what is it? Russia. Russia's got another one. I should have marked it on here. I think it's somewhere around this region. But anyways, they got a giant isolated area with those big statues that look like Moai as well. I'll see if I can bring any of them up on the screen. The Moai. Oh yeah, we were going to look up the airstrikes inbound for potato memes. We'll get back to the Moai later. Or maybe another episode. Alright, so where is the potato memes? I'm pretty sure he said he is in Afghanistan, would it be? So let me type that in. No, I'm praying for you guys there. I know a lot of countries are getting caught up in this goddamn sacrifice ritual. Alright, so yeah, we got the Afghanistan one. Yeah, it's near the airport there, eh? I don't know if this was one of the airports that had the sacrifices done at it. Dear God, let's hope not. Alright, so that's the ancient line one going through Afghanistan. Oh, fuck, man. It goes through another airport. Yeah, so I'd be careful around this airport, that other airport. Alright, so that's the ancient one. Let's bring up the regular one. See what we got for attacks in Afghanistan. Oh yeah, Islamabad. But that one's more Pakistan. I don't know if they've had a bad history with sacrifices. I've never really heard it much. I don't know, it could be something to do with the name as well. Not really sure. I don't know how that translates. Alright, so yeah, for Afghanistan we got the Hindu Kush mountain range. That appears to be one of the locations that would be more prone to attacks or sacrifice rituals. Let's bring up the blue layer, see if we got any more. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so the blue ley line. Yeah, we got some more in Afghanistan. So I don't know if Potato Memes is able to post like where most of the bad attacks and deaths and regions are occurring in Afghanistan, if they're in any relation to these sacrifice lines. Kind of freaks me out, but it looks like more of the purple line, the old line, is accurate for this one. Yeah, let's show the comparison of the two lines so people can understand what the hell I'm talking about here. Gravity well show summary. Here it is. Alright, let's make it bigger. That's what she said. Right, so if you take the purple lines, this is the ancient one, and then the blue lines is the modern one. So you can see that when I was drawing both maps, I got really pissed off because I wanted them to map up exactly like the ancient sites and the modern gravity well lines. But as you can see, the pattern is just slightly off. Now some people said if you took it and just shifted it a little, would it line up? I'm thinking, yeah, it would help a little, but for the most part, for this actually to fit, I'm pretty sure the Earth would have to shrink by like, I don't know, 1 or 2%. So yeah, if you shrunk the Earth by 1 or 2%, all of a sudden all these lines would line up perfect and there wouldn't be as much of a wobble. I'm pretty sure maybe that's where the wobble came from. If the planet grew a bit, then it would make the lines appear to have a wobble to them, right? All right, so I know some of the things that we were talking about on the show was whether or not these ley line patterns really are on other planets. So I'll just show some of those off as well. Won't get into too much detail about them, but yeah, you can see that a lot of these gravity well patterns where the lines are splitting, even on Venus appears to line up pretty damn well with it. I'll have to see when I get a topographic map of Venus, then I'll really be able to check it out. Alright, so that's the Venus one. We went over Mars. Let's go up with Europa. This one's a little bit far-fetched because damn, there's huge amount of lines all over the planet of Europa. But scientists are trying to figure out what's causing the major crack lines, like the biggest ones. And you can see the biggest ones really are falling across the major line patterns. What I should have done for this one is turned off blue, because I'm pretty sure most of it is just is aligning to the yellow. I don't really need the blue ones on here. So yeah, that's the moon of Jupiter, Europa. Let's check out, what's another good? Oh yeah, Saturn. Saturn's always a popular one people like to see. So you can see the ley line patterns really do mark where the colors are changing in the cloud patterns. You can even see that the center eye or whatever is really the blue line outline. And if people are thinking that's odd that the center line would be mapped by the blue, let's check out our pole right now. Turn off yellow. We'll turn off the ancient sites. And let's look at the South Pole. Yeah, so you can see the South Pole. How is it? It's pretty much centered in that same type of pattern as well. So it's not just the clouds on other planets. Alright, what's another good one? We looked at Mars, looked at that one. Oh yeah, the Sun. The Sun is where the French connection comes in again. Yeah, if you map the gravity well, luckily Google, once you map the gravity well for one planet, you can just change it to the other planets and it'll automatically scale it to fit the other planets. Thank God. I didn't want to have to redraw it on each one. So yeah, thank God they were able to rescale it to the Sun. And you can see the Sun definitely has some, like, the center point where all these magnetic fields are splitting out from is definitely a gravity well point there. You can see some of the large magnetic storms are somewhat uniform within this field. So, oh yeah, and then one of my French viewers pointed out that the symbol for the French flag, I believe it is somewhat reminded him of the gravity well pattern on the Sun. So, yeah, thanks to all the French viewers who keep tuning in, sharing their knowledge about it. Really appreciate it. Alright, so, oh yeah, let's bring up the Moai while we're here. Yeah, so if you're looking at why those weird statues on Easter Island, the one I talked about in Canada, another spot for sacrifice, I wouldn't be surprised, and the one in Russia, and all three of these locations are on the same ley line, and they also have a history of giants, like legends it's saying giants were turned into stone. So yeah, that's one of the ones for that. Oh, and if anyone's wondering about my ley line pattern, why I have alternating colors, and why I can turn off some fields and leave others. Yeah, you can see that South America, it's really mapped in the blue lines well, compared to how Australia is mapped in the yellow field. Well, I got the idea from copying the guy who also follows my namesake. Our names are almost identical. It's kind of weird. But anyways, he showed that, yeah, when you're drawing these ley line or gravity well, or they called them great circle maps or portalon charts. Basically what you need is an alternating pattern. And when you draw these lines, you just alternate, like you go from black, red, green, and so forth. And technically, my map is supposed to finish in this type of a line pattern, but you can see even Perry Reese had problems getting it to map exactly right. And it's supposed to end up in this really neat spiral pattern. And I've tried doing that with the red lines, but I really suck at drawing lines. So if anyone's good at using Google Earth to draw lines, for God's sakes, I could use your help. You might even be solving the very gravity well research the planet has been trying to solve for like centuries. Yeah, so let's bring up the red pattern. The red pattern is so complex, like there's so many lines because you're like cutting all the other lines in half and redrawing them that, let's see, did I end up with any of those neat patterns? Yeah, some of them I started to end up with that really fancy pattern like on Perry Reese's map, but I just suck so bad at drawing the lines and there's so many of them that yeah, it's really difficult to do. Now, if anyone's wondering, Lake Victoria in Africa, I know it's one of the best or maybe the biggest freshwater lake in Africa. It has a gravity well just up to the one shore of it. So I don't know what happened, if the planet shifted slightly and it used to line up right in the center. Could be. Or it's just, yeah, a lot of them tend to be right off to the side. All right. So I think we covered a lot. What was I going to add more to this? We covered the sacrifice. No, I'd like to give a big shout out to Art Olivier again and his research into the sacrifice part of this. Like, I've been researching these leyline maps for 4 years, and I really never clued in that it was something to do with sacrifice. I don't know. I'm a little bit of a slow learner. I know some people find that funny because I have some pretty wild projects that most people are amazed by, but it's not like I come up with them overnight. It's like this took a lot of work, 4 years, 80 hours a week. What happened was I had a severe concussion, and I was off work for 2 years. So I was like, shit, man, I got to find something to keep my mind occupied. And for some unknown reason, I started drawing gravity wells. And I looked into that too. Some people, when they get major concussions, learn to play the piano, or some people learn new languages. I fucking learned gravity wells. Not sure why, but who knows. Yeah, so if anyone's wondering the Bay of Biscay, why it exists where it does, it's also right at the mouth of a giant gravity well. London is also falling on these. Yeah, let's show the European cities, the ones that could be primed for sacrifice. We have Sofia. I sure hope there's no giant sacrifice ritual going there because some of my best friends live in that city. Copenhagen. Not that I'm going to cherry pick who I want to live and die. I don't want anyone to be caught up in this sacrifice crap. All right, so Tripoli, Rome, all these ones in Serbia and that region, Budapest, Warsaw, Copenhagen. Yeah, we covered that. Yeah, so if anyone's wondering Menzen Bay, why it's there, it's got another mouth of a gravity well. Oh, that's what I forgot to do. I was just going to say, what other scientific evidence do I have to suggest these gravity wells are actually that and not just like energy of ley lines or something? Or who knows, maybe they're both. So what I can do is I can turn on the weather. And obviously this is a real-time weather image, so I didn't pre-doctor any of it. It's all ready to go. I don't even know what the clouds are going to look like. So let's boot it up. See if it matches or if it doesn't. This could be the greatest evidence or the greatest mockery of my research yet. All right, let's do it. Let's bring up the gravity well map combined with the weather. All right, let's see what we got for weather today. Obviously, what you'll notice is the Gulf of Mexico always gets hurricanes spinning around it. Let's turn off the blue field so we can see a little bit more. All right, so this one I noticed, who is it? One of my viewers in Norway was saying that they don't really get a lot of storms here, which I was kind of surprised because when you turn on this map, this gravity well here always has clouds spinning around it. The only thing I'm thinking is maybe they don't get so much severe weather from it because it's so cold there. So I think most severe weather comes when hot and cold mixes together, like the two opposites. So yeah, that could be why Norway tends to have less. All right, so that's a little bit of a pattern around it, around that one. No, I noticed like around this one, science is always like meteorologists are having a hard time explaining line clouds. And it's often that line clouds will form and they'll be going right on the lines. So this region isn't always that active. Oh, here's another one spinning around it. No, what's really wild is when you boot up the weather and there's like huge hurricanes going, you'll see that all the major gravity wells around the South Pole will just start getting huge amounts spinning around them. Yeah, so we do got a little bit of formation of weather around these gravity wells. And as you can tell, gravity wells often act the same way as black holes, where they don't actually pull matter in. They don't pull the storms in. What ends up happening is stuff gets caught around them. Sort of like get caught in like a never-ending orbit around them. So that's why you'll often find like a gravity well with stuff spinning around it rather than getting pulled into it. Yeah, there's another one. Oh, this one here. This one is actually my most favorite of them all, because I'll give a quick explanation of why. Let's turn off the weather for now. When I was looking at these maps, I kept thinking of Atlantis, right? I'm like, in the old days, like we always kept trying to find where is Atlantis, where is Atlantis. The Nazi researchers obviously went on different expeditions to the South Pole, trying to prove that they could find Atlantis, because they wanted to tie it into all their like their philosophies or whatever. So I started to look at the different gravity well points, and I'm like, are any of these gravity well points a good candidate for Atlantis? So when I started looking in like the top of the Atlantic, nothing really stood out to me as like something that would be the gravity well point of Atlantis. And then as I worked my way down, I was like, man, this one here is kind of suspicious, right? We got like a ring pattern that's formed around it, almost like island chains. So I looked up these island chains, and it turns out the Bouvet Island happened to witness the Nazis on their expedition looking for Atlantis, and they caught them here around this island chain. And this island chain, if you click on the islands, it'll say that they're recently submerged. So I don't know what they mean by recently, if that's like thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, but whatever. It says these islands had recently submerged. So it's like, do we have any evidence that the Nazis not only stopped here, but left a mark to show this is where they thought was Atlantis? So I zoomed in, but guess what's on the bottom? It says Schwabenland Seamount. And if anyone's not familiar with the name Schwabenland, that's like one of the Nazi philosophies about this like ancient homeland where they think the Germans originated. So the ship that they went looking for Atlantis was also called the Schwabenland. And when they found this recently submerged island chain, they named it after it, the Schwabenland Seamount. So if anyone had like, I have a new guess usually of where Atlantis is every year, but my latest guess that's I guess held up for the last 4 years is I believe this circular island chain is either Atlantis or Hyperborea. So we'll bring up an image of why I think it's Hyperborea. Hyperborea. Let me see. Where is it? Now, some people are wondering what the hell Hyperborea is. Same thing. It's like this ancient place where they think a lot of people originated. Let's see. Hyperborea. I think I called it Hyper. There it is. Yeah, so if you take an ancient map of where people thought Hyperborea was, they couldn't place it anywhere. They're like, oh, this map doesn't fit here. It doesn't fit here. It doesn't fit here. If you take the map and you lay it right over where the Nazis said Schwabenland was like their main spot, lo and behold, you can see that Africa maps the edge of it. The Antarctic continent maps the edge of it. The only difference is they'd be closer together. So I was thinking there's more evidence for the expanding Earth theory. If you took the Earth and you shrank it by about 20%, it would fit this like a glove. Especially this. You see this like circle indentation there? That's evidence for another gravity well. Look what's here, the big gravity well with the circle indentation around it. So if you shrink it in together, guess what would line up? Yeah, so a lot of people debate that this isn't Hyperborea because the temperature is wrong. They're trying to say that Hyperborea was like a hot place, and if it was here, it would be very cold. But then we have the pole flip theory, right? Technically, what is it? The South Pole used to be tropical. Like when they looked at the remains of what's under the ice, they find palm trees and stuff, and they can prove that the South Pole was actually tropical at one point. So I think at the point where if this was tropical, that would make this location very warm as well, depending on how far back you go in history. All right, so that's the mystery of Atlantis solved. The sacrifice rituals. What else? Oh yeah, we'll just cover the split of the poles. So people have probably noticed here that, or actually, I almost can guarantee no one's noticed this before, because they don't really teach people it much, even though it's part of whatchamacallit, Pangea theory, is that our planet Earth used to have one big giant south pole. So it wasn't this as the south pole, but you take Antarctica and Australia and you crush them together, including Zealandia. Let's bring up Zealandia. Zealandia is another continent that sank. Well, most of it sank. As you can see, it used to be way bigger. So you take all three of those continents and you merge them together. It even still has the drag lines where the planets or continents shifted apart from each other. And you can see where Zealandia, the boot, used to fit right into there. So you crush them all together and you have one super giant south pole. So what happened was, at some point in our history, these continents split. And ever since they have split, the magnetic pole or the wandering pole, there's a whole bunch of different pole theories, but anyways, the poles often switch back and forth, back and forth. So what happened was, as one place would be ice, the other place would be warm. And then it would switch, where this one would be hot and this one would be cold. And if you look at the history of New Zealand, it was ice during the Ice Age. So you can see that, like, hey, if this was switching back and forth, that would explain why New Zealand got hit so hard by the Ice Age, right? And why New Zealand is like the nicest place you could live in the whole world, but its populations of people, I don't know if they do have history that goes back millions of years, but I would almost guess if New Zealand was nice all the time and had never turned to ice, then there'd be shitloads more people here. Because why the hell would we move from there? It was like such a nice location, right? So it kind of explains why that New Zealand isn't like densely populated with billions of people, is because it's gone through a really rough past, like cycles of getting destroyed and recreated. And I shout out to everyone, my viewers in New Zealand. I know they just had an earthquake recently. I think it was a 5-pointer. So yeah, shout out to everyone there. All right, so let's cover how this broken pole for the South Pole affected the North Pole. Because I know a lot of cases when people share research, they always talk about the North Pole wandering, but they hardly ever talk about the South Pole and how it wanders. So let's get up to the North Pole in Canada. All right, so this is where I started to realize that gravity was connected to these poles as well. Is if you take the North Pole of Canada, which I never even realized this, the joke, you know how Santa Claus lives on the North Pole? The biggest joke of that isn't even that Santa isn't real or he's a ghost or whatever you want to call him, saint, is there is no land on the South or North Pole. It's only the South Pole that has land. Everything on the North Pole is actually pushed away. We don't have any land there. So if Santa was to live on the North Pole, he'd be living in the fucking water or on ice floating around in the water. So as you can see here, the Bering Strait Bridge, it aligns with like the cross pattern of two pyramids connecting. And it just so happens that Greenland, or Iceland I guess this one is, no, it's Greenland, is when it shifts over before the pole split, it also created a Bering Strait across to Europe. So we can see that that's probably why there's evidence of like really ancient European people that were in North America like tens of thousands of years ago, is because we also had a land bridge connecting. And if people don't believe it, check into the First Nations history. They even talk about how they had to wipe out a lot of the early Europeans that lived here because they called them red-haired giants, the Seeketek tribe, the what is it, the Lovelock Cave. So yeah, the reason that they had to wipe out these giant red-haired Europeans that lived in North America is because they were really into the human sacrifice to the point where they were eating babies' brains. So I don't blame the First Nations people for wiping them out. Even the Bible talked about it, how they had to wipe out all the giant cannibals for doing the stuff to do with sacrifice. That's where it really comes into the Bible. The Bible talks so much about sacrifice, like even the stories about Jesus, how Jesus was supposed to come to make sure that we wouldn't have to do the sacrifice crap anymore. But I don't know. It's looking like it's not the greatest. Did it work, didn't it? Alright, so let's see. Let's bring up the old North Pole to give people a recreation. Sorry, for some reason this image always comes up blurry, even though I have a crystal clear version that I can show you. Yeah, so anyways, if anyone's wondering what the South Pole or the North Pole used to look like before the South Pole split in half, this is actually the shape. Giant open space around a cube. So people wondered, like, is this evidence that gravity is shaping the planets? I would say yes, but if anyone's got debates otherwise. So let's remove that off the screen and let's bring up an actual high-res version. Right, so I thought that that was pretty wild to think that Greenland used to connect to make a Bering Strait, but then I found out that old Pangea theory, like modern Pangea theories, actually suggest the same thing, except they draw it differently because they don't know that the gravity well pattern was going to keep the land away from going there, so they squished it together more. So they have it very similar to what I do, and they also prove that this was a true land bridge in the past, because the mountain chains from here to here are actually still existing, and we can test them and show that they are the same mountain range, that they just got split in half. So yeah, if anyone's wondering the connections of how Europeans, they didn't even need boats to get here. They literally could have walked across tens of thousands of years ago just like anyone else did. We had the almost identical land bridge. The only thing I could debate is maybe the land bridge on here was maybe easier to traverse. I don't know, because it does seem like less Europeans made it. Not to try to like justify this as any land claim theories. I know a lot of people like to argue about whose land is whose by who got here first, and any ideas that suggest otherwise are considered taboo. I really don't care, because I like about the Turtle Island theory where everyone's supposed to be coming here. So I don't know, I kind of go with that theory overall and not get caught up in the politics of it. So if anyone's wondering the yin-yang symbol, it actually does coincide very similar to Australia and Antarctica. What else do we got? Oh yeah, some of my favorite scientist researchers, like he's more of an academic. What's his name again? If anyone's seen his channel before, I think it's Antoine. But anyways, Antoine and his wonderful people. Yeah, he was talking about how scientists have started to realize that these gravity well points exist and storms do spin around them. So I can't remember if he called it a gravity well point or what he called it, but I think like scientists are very, very slowly catching up to like the ancient stuff, and we're starting to realize that these sacrifice lines are controlling the weather, the storms. I would even assume electricity. Oh yeah, that's one other thing I want to add. No, I noticed when I was working on these theories that in order to make these gravity well maps, you have to use light. Because what they do is all these different points on the map, this one's the equator, or no, this one's the equator, this one's the Tropic of Cancer, this one's the Tropic of Capricorn or whatever. I'll show you on a regular map. Whoops, that's wrong. Let's see, grid. See, you can see the tropic line, equator line, tropic lines, Arctic Circle lines. So none of these lines in yellow are actually made up on my map. They're all measured with actual real measuring points. And how you reach these measuring points is you have to use a calculator, or not a calculator, a tool. Let's show up that tool. I know I haven't really showed this part of it before, so this will be new if anyone hasn't seen it. I was actually just talking about it in a post today. This was a tool that was developed by Sir Isaac Newton. And what it does is it uses light. So there's one of the parts of the equation we're trying to link. And he's able to map the gravity well points with light. So I think that's a really big thing. And if anyone's wondering how close this looks like to the Freemason symbol, I believe that this is what the Freemason symbol is modeled after. I know tons of Freemasons will debate it, but really, like I said before, there's so many denominations of Freemasonry that one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing 90% of the time. So one lodge, it could be it, and another lodge, it's not. So if someone's in a lodge that says it isn't, yeah, your lodge is probably right. And someone that says it is, yeah, your lodge could be right too. You never know, right? So let's see. Yeah, if you zoom in here a little bit, or let's just bring it up. Yeah, so here it talks about how Sir Isaac Newton was involved and that he was able to calculate the things like the prime meridian and stuff for longitude and latitude where no other maps could. So that's where we're starting to get into the science of this. If you take that tool that Sir Isaac Newton developed, there was a recent article, and yeah, the recent article came out that they found a manuscript that Sir Isaac Newton believed that ley lines, or not ley lines, that pyramids were somehow connected to a new coming apocalypse. So I was like, holy shit, pyramids collected to an apocalypse. What the hell is he talking about? Then I started to realize, well, Sir Isaac Newton had the tool to determine that these pyramids are built on the ley lines and that these ley lines are part of sacrifice. So if there was one giant sacrifice coming, that would be the apocalypse, right? So that's where I started to realize what the hell Isaac Newton was talking about when he said that the pyramids connect to an apocalypse. Is he must have realized that these sacrifice lines were also what the pyramids were built on and how they connect across the entire planet. All right, so yeah, I guess we'll bring up some of the other sacrifice stuff while it's here. This is like pictures of mine from the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto. The Mithra cult, the one that sacrifices the Aleph, or the ox, it was part of the sacrifice thing. So yeah, these Roman guys, they knew all about these sacrifice ley lines and stuff, and they had a whole religion based about it. Oh yeah, and if people are wondering, how can I connect this Roman god or religion Mithra to the whole sacrifice and to this technology of ley lines? Let's show the evidence for that. Alright, so I think it's in this one. Sorry, I should have had this all in one folder, but as I said before, I really suck at organizing shit. Alright. Oh no, it's not that one. What I did is I got another folder with some information about it. And here it is. Alright, let's bring up this one. X marks the spot. So this one in the center is another guest I've had on the show twice now to talk about Santeria. We didn't cover the sacrifice part because he wasn't comfortable with it. But as you can see, it's got like the 5-pointed star, or basically the shape of the pentagon where like the sacrifice lines go through. And it's got that. And where does this connect to the Mithra cult? Well, you can see, like, yeah, who is it? Another viewer of mine was pointing out today this symbology of the 3 volcanoes. Let's do it. Yeah. Just when I thought we were done wrapping up the show, it's like I found out half the shit I forgot to talk about. So if you take this, let's remove the traditional lines. We don't need those anymore. No, the only difference, as you can see, about the traditional line and the ones we're using today is each line after the equator on a traditional map gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So it doesn't actually make a full lap around the planet. So that's what one of the ancient maps does. They changed it. So when you get to the tropic line, you draw it with a line that goes fully around. So instead of making it smaller. So that's the difference. Right, so one of the viewers pointed out that we got this symbology of 3. Like the 3 belt in Orion, 3 stars in Orion's belt, the 3 giant volcanoes that are on the line of sacrifice on Mars. So how the hell does that connect to that? Let's show. So we got the 3 of Orion's belt, and it just so happens that the First Nations culture really symbolized it well to me. Is that one of the arms reaches out to grab the ox's head, or the Alph, the Alpha to Omega sacrifice ritual. And the stars around it would sort of be like the Pleiades, the 7th heaven. So if you're ever wondering where the 7 and the 3 comes in, there's the 3 of Orion's belt, the 7 stars of the... Basically what was supposed to be is if you do the ritual for this like thing in the sky, repeat it, it's supposed to turn you into a light being, like one of those pure energy beings that can live forever, immortality, and grants you access to go to the Pleiades system where you can live it as an immortal forever. But the problem that the immortals had is it's so many people from the earth started to come there that they said enough is enough. They don't want any more mortals coming. So they had to try to stop people from doing the ritual and transforming and becoming immortal and bugging them to get in. So we see the same thing with Egypt. Egypt has like the same ox, how they had to reach to the ox, reaching to the ox, reaching to the sacrifice. So you can see like, I just realized that. I was asking JJ Ainsworth the other day, what was the ox equivalent sacrifice by the people in South America? Because she was talking about a little bit about this, but she wasn't getting into much detail about the sacrifice stuff. Wonder why. But it's pretty gross. I know even if she knew about it, she probably wouldn't want to talk about it. But yeah, so I'm thinking that since they didn't have the ox, or they decided not to use horned beast, they substituted it with human sacrifice. So yeah, that's where we're starting to get into the connection of Mars and the three repeating pattern. And if anyone's wondering why the wing disc is like a wing and a circle, it's the First Nations people illustrated it well. This constellation spins in a circle above us. So sometimes cultures would draw it with multiple arms to show that it's spinning, like when you have the Vedic one. And other cultures would do like a belt or raised arms, like Bulgaria. Or some people just put a giant X, like in South America. They all had their own version of showing how it spun around. So that's where the wing disc symbol comes from. I know I've debated Freemasons for years and years, even decades, about what the wing disc symbol is. And I think they were right in telling me that I was wrong, because I think now that it really is this, and everything I was talking about before could be somewhat related, but probably not. So yeah, thanks Freemasons for kind of like pointing me, well, not pointing me in the right direction, just telling me that I was wrong so I could sort of figure it out. Well, yeah, and it was neat. You see this Vedic thing where he's got like this reef that's kind of making a figure 8 pattern. I didn't even realize that to now. Here we got some new information. We'll discover live on the show. There's a pattern where the North Pole, when it cycles, you can see that it makes a figure 8 pattern. So when the pole is like going around and around, it sort of makes a figure 8. So if you're wondering why the Ice Age hit this region bad and this region bad, is the pole sometimes shifts from here all the way down to this region. So once it gets into this region, the East Coast is fucked, Europe's fucked, right? Huge Ice Age destroying it. And I think that's why the landmass got smashed over on its side like that, is because the pole kept going through it. So it's neat how like the ancient Vedics, they showed that as well. I'll see if I got it on here. I think I drew one for it. No, not in that one. Now what I tried to do is make a slide that showed the gravity well point for the 8. I don't know. For most of these, I should have them all in one pattern, but sadly I do not. Anyways, if I see the folder come up later. Oh yeah, and I'll show some of the cloud lines. So often like maps will get like these line patterns showing up for gravity wells, and you can see that a lot of the lines manage to land right on the red pattern. So I figure if anyone wants to help solve meteorological mysteries, if you can finish the red pattern and get it smooth, you'll be able to line these line clouds up like no one else has before. Sorry, got a telephone call. I'll answer it later. Hopefully it's not for medical reasons. Sorry, I got to go for a colonoscopy because my health has really deteriorated. The lockdowns definitely had an impact on a lot of people, and surely as hell didn't improve my life. Sitting around on my ass all the time definitely took its toll. Yeah, but hopefully that comes out good. Just got blood coming out of places that shouldn't be. And it's not from any extracurricular activities. I wish. Alright, so let's see. What was I talking about before we got distracted? Oh yeah, I was going to try to show the figure 8 pattern, but we don't need to. Let's show this one though. So scientists, for a while, they were going with gravity wells as sort of like this dip, sort of like Einstein's diagram shows. But then more recently, they realized that it's not that type of a shape, that it's more like one of the Piri-Reis orbs where you got lines coming out crisscrossing from a center point. So just to show that science is actually on the verge of reaching the same conclusions. Not saying they will, guaranteed, but If I had to guess on a hunch, yeah, that's the direction they're going. Alright, so the only other thing that I really wanted to show before I get too carried away, oh yeah, I got two more things I got to show. So let's do it quick. Finishing quick is my specialty. That's what she said. No, just kidding. Alright, so let's see here. Where did I put that one? Oh yeah, I put it in the Sacred Tree folder. No, there's an old prophecy by Crazy Horse talking about how all the people are going to gather under the sacred tree again one day. So that's when I realized when I started to draw the orb patterns to this, like adding the orbs like Piri Reese had, you could see that it draws a cube, like a sacred tree, in various parts of the globe. And it just so happens to match like the Norse sacred tree or like the Sephiroth from the Jewish Kabbalah. Bunch of other cultures had the sacred tree, and everyone's trying to figure out like why the hell would the ancients be saying there's a giant world tree. Our limited understanding of gravity, we had no idea for I guess centuries, even 1,000 years, but now we're starting to understand, yeah, this is where the sacred tree comes in. It's the gravity well field. So ancients were drastically ahead of us. So that was that one. Oh yeah, not to freak everyone out, but remember how I was talking about how a lot of these like places, they land right on like major cities? Kampala, Mambu, Porto, Accra. Sorry I can't pronounce names in Africa to save my life. Adidas, Adibaba, or whatever that says. Gaborone. Anyways, so I started to realize, has there been any evidence where people tried to warn us and like, hey, all these different ley line spots that are be using for sacrifice, we probably shouldn't live there because it's going to be dangerous in the future. So let's bring back a message from coast to coast callers. Yeah, I think this is what I was getting to before I got distracted by the viewers. No offense, like I don't mind viewers got questions, go right ahead, but it will derail me slightly. Right, so anyways, let's make this bigger. That's what she said. Right, so there was a caller from Coast to Coast AM. It's one of my favorite paranormal radio shows that you can tell I've gotten a little bit of information from over the years. So he called into the show and he was giving a warning to people. Now, people that are familiar with this call might argue and say, hey, this was all debunked and it turned out to be a fake guy that just made up the call. The problem with the idea of debunking that is I'd like to believe it, but the guy who called in to say he did it, he couldn't duplicate it. So he couldn't be like, oh, I can repeat this guy's voice and everything. He tried and he sounded nothing like him. And the other problem is that the satellite went down. So unless he can duplicate being able to shut satellites down, it wasn't him. Almost guaranteed, right? So I don't know why they believed his explanation that he was the one who called in, but anyways, maybe it has something to do with not wanting to freak everyone out about the sacrifice. So anyways, I'll read it quick and try not to choke up. So Art, God rest his soul, he was the one that received the call. He used to be the first host to Coast. All right, so the caller called in. He says, I'm a former employee. I was let go on medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Damn, I don't know where to start. They're going to triangulate this position really soon. Sorry, I'm already starting to choke up here. All right, so Art's like, yeah, you can't spend a lot of time on the phone. Give us something quick. So the caller voice is breaking up just like mine. He says, Art, what we're thinking of is aliens. It's actually demons or extra-dimensional beings. Sort of these things that are like being involved with sacrifices, right? Like we're not summoning aliens with sacrifices here, right? I know one of the guests I had on, Art Olivier, he was talking about how these ley lines are also used for alien propulsion methods. And that's why he thinks that they're more like terrestrial based, that he doesn't believe the ley lines stretch out into orbit and stuff. I do got shitloads of information that show the ley line patterns not only on planets and stars, but when you zoom out, it also is the solar system wide ley line pattern, and then boom, another one for the Milky Way. So I do think that there's a chance that these interdimensional beings could be coming from deep, distant reaches of the galaxy. But anyways, well, let's get on. And he says they're extra dimensional beings, an earlier precursor to the space program they made contact with. See, that's another big one. I don't know if anyone realizes why we haven't gone back to the moon in 50 years. What happened is the moon in ancient times used to be used as a prison. And what were they putting on the moon for prison time? Demons. What the problem was, it's like if you read in the Bible and stuff, when Jesus would do exorcisms, demons would come out of people, but they could just leave one person and go to another. So you had to trap the demon somehow. Sort of like how Ghostbusters, how they created that box to try to catch the ghosts in them. Same philosophy. So another case what happened is the demons, they would not only leave people and go to other people, but they would also go to animals. So there was an entire village that hated Jesus because when he came to do the exorcisms in their village, the demons left the people, but they went into all their prized livestock. And guess what they did to the livestock? They took it and sacrificed it. They ran it off a cliff. So the whole village kicked Jesus out and said, never come back because you just killed all of our livestock. And Jesus' defense, he was just trying to get rid of the demons out of the people like they asked. And I guess he didn't know too much about banishing them on the moon. So that's what some of the people that got the demons out and banished them for good, they sent them all the way to the moon. And when they were stuck on the moon, they couldn't take over any more people, and there was no animals. So they're just stuck on the moon in demon form. Couldn't possess anyone. So really, that's what happened when the astronauts went back. They were worried a little bit about aliens, I guess, but it turns out when they got there, the spacesuits were not strong enough to keep the demons out. So yeah, some of the demons got right into the astronauts and possessed them. And how I realized this is I actually met Buzz Aldrin in Toronto in 2008, and I can sense demons. I didn't even know I could until I started to meet really powerful ones. Yeah, when I met the demon that's possessing Buzz Aldrin, I was like, holy shit, man. Whatever these demons are, they're ancient, they got tons of power, and they literally make all my hair on my body stand on end. Even the little fuzz on the top of my head, all standing up straight like I'd just seen a ghost. So I know like people have realized that Buzz Aldrin did act very strange when he came back from the moon. People said that he got like severe depression, became a raging alcoholic, and he almost has like an immortality where he can just keep living and living and living. And people are like, how is this guy so old? Like the astronauts were supposed to die at a young age because they were exposed to high doses of radiation, right? But yeah, so he just keeps living and he has some sort of weird attachment to him. So it's fucked up that the Area 51 caller, he mentions it as well. He's like, the earlier space program, they made contact with the demons, and I think that's why they didn't go back to the moon. How is NASA going to tell everyone? Like, guys, we can't send anyone back to the moon because there's too many demons. So really, they just didn't go. And they were hoping that the demon in control of Buzz would just go away. But I don't think he has gone away, or the demon for that. It was actually when I was doing the podcast for this, I have an amulet that also helps me detect demons, an Anubis amulet. It's been in my family for, I guess, generations now, 3 generations. It was found in the ruins of an abandoned farmhouse that was like hundreds of years old, and it was like found in like the, I guess, 1950s. I don't even know when. I'd have to check that again. But anyways, yeah, this amulet, it causes me to have weird dreams when I'm going to encounter demons the next day. And I dreamt all about demons before I did the show with the guest talking about these demonic ley lines. So it freaked the hell out of me. But at least I got a little bit of a warning. So anyways, so there is they're not claiming they are not what they claim to be. They've infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly Area 51. So that's when I was thinking, like, are like evil Freemasons actually doing these sacrifices on the lines, or are demons possessing some people that are in high up positions so that they can do these sacrifices without even the Freemasons knowing, without the military really knowing? Because that's where the September 11th one comes in. Would the military really comply to that? Or would it be a demonic presence that forced them to do it, right? So anyways, it says here, the caller says the disasters are coming. The military. And then there's a long pause. Yeah, I know, it chokes me up too. So he says the government knows about them. Like, he knows that that NASA and everyone figured out that when they sent people to the moon, they came back demonically possessed. And he says that there's a lot of safe areas in the world that we could begin moving the population to. So that's where I was getting into. Like, we know, or the government knows, that a lot of these major cities are all built on the sacrifice lines, like Pyongyang, Beijing, Hong Kong. But what he's saying is the government could do something about it, right? He's like, hey, why don't we move these cities off of the sacrifice lines so that all the people, when they die in the city, can't be part of the ritual because it's not on the line, right? So that's where I think Tokyo, you could be in a good situation there. At least they're a little bit off the line. So, yeah, that's what I was just going to say. When the Area 51 caller was saying that there's safe areas, I was wondering, like, what the hell is he talking about safe areas? Now I got a better idea of what he's talking about, these safe areas. We could move the population, but we're not. He's like, we're not, Art. We're not. So Art, he's like asking him, so like these people, they know and they're not doing anything to help, right? The caller says, yeah, they're not. They want those major population centers wiped out. So all the ones that are on the sacrifice lines, they want them wiped out as part of the ritual. And so that the few that are left will be more easily controlled. So that's where all of a sudden, God, I can't even say it. So that's when the satellite went down. So that's why people are trying to say, oh, it was a crank call. So it's like, fuck, if it was a crank call, how the hell did he shut the satellite down, right? Imagine that. It's like you're a pranker and you want to do a prank call. You're like, hey, not only will I do the prank call, but I'll get the fucking satellite shut down at the same time. So apparently that guy didn't even get his chance to finish telling Art all the details about all this stuff before the call got shut down off the air, and that's the last we heard of him. So pray to God that he's okay, but if I had to guess, he's probably sacrificed. God. Not to freak people out. Like, I don't know. Hopefully this is all just a horrible coincidence. Yeah, so let's should we bring up the First Nation stuff some more? Yeah, big shout out to the First Nations people. I know we're going through a lot of different conflicts with the people and Europeans that have been here and all the new people that are colonizing the Americas. But I think it's really part of the legend. Crazy Horse was saying that he sees a time in 7 generations when all the colors of humankind will gather under the sacred tree of life and the whole world will be one again. So I don't know if I'd want to gather under the sacred tree of life because that's really where the sacrifices take place. But maybe that's the thing. Like, who knows? Maybe all these people being on the lines, just us dying in general, and like car accidents and stuff, is enough to please the gods so that it keeps the world going. Because like I was saying before, like we seen, like the picture of the elephant, where is it? Like we can see that sacrifice really has been the foundation. Like I know a lot of academics will laugh their asses off at this sacrifice idea actually creating the planet. But if you zoom out enough and you look at how our planet looks, it's one hell of a coincidence, right? And that's what I try to look at it is maybe it's like, you know, when how people live and we always debate what's better, the vegan diet or the carnivore diet. And we try to get by like saying, hey, we don't need to sacrifice animals to live, that we could just be vegan. But then a lot of cases, vegans get really sick. Not to make fun of the vegan diet. I know I did that way too much in the past. Now I'm kind of like getting the repercussions of it, eating too much meat. And now I'm getting to the point where I have to go for a colonoscopy to get checked for stomach cancer. And stomach cancer and eating too much meat are definitely tied together in some cases. So yeah, so I think that's what it is our whole universe is really a balance between sacrifice and not sacrificing. If we get too one-sided or the other, it throws off the balance, right? Sort of like me eating too much meat. So, yeah, that's what I just wanted to talk about for all those. I'm pretty sure I covered everything now. Was there anything else? The First Nations prophecy. Yeah, so I try not to get too down in the dumps about this, thinking that, hey, sacrifice is so evil. Maybe there is some part of us that really needs sacrifice in order for the earth to function properly. Like, we really don't know what makes the Earth tick. We don't know what makes the universe tick. For all we know, it actually could be some sort of spiritual element for our universe simulation or whatever kind of creation you want to call the universe. It requires like dark energy to work properly. So that's where a lot of this dark energy and all this stuff is coming into. All right, so we managed to cover quite a bit in an hour and a half. I know we're pushing the boundaries of like a feature-length film here, so I'll try not to talk too much more about it. We covered Atlantis, the weather, this and that. All right, so I guess what we should do is finish on the Mars connection. Okay, so that's where we began, and that's where we will finish up the show. Or no, before we go to the finishing up the show. So yeah, just to give a shout out again to Art Olivier and him sharing all of his information. Hopefully I'm saying his name correctly. I know my French is terrible. The only words I learned was like bonjour, comment tu, ça va bien. No, there's some basic greetings in French that I took like 10 years of French class, and that's all I came out with, sadly. All right, so let's see. Let's go to the ancient sightline. And September 11th. So we do have a disconnect between where the modern sacrifice line is and where some of the ancient ones are. I'm starting to wonder if maybe all they have to do is run parallel in order to be connected as well, or that the planet really did shrink or expand in some cases and these lines actually used to line up perfectly. But there is no doubt about it. One of these sacrifice lines just so happens to be the September 11th attack line. The Boston airport, the World Trade Centers, the Washington, or the Pentagon, and the other place in Mexico that Art has. I'll have to finish that for the next show. So with these lines and connecting them to volcanoes is where Mars comes in. So let's bring up Mars again. Mars topography. There it is. Holy shit, I didn't even realize that. Alright, so I happen to leave the September 11th line on, and it also happens to be the line that the Mars volcano is on. Isn't it wild when I do these live podcasts? We're actually learning some of this stuff as I'm learning it. Like, I didn't even notice that. So the September 11th line just so happens to be the one that's crossing through the fucking volcanoes on Mars. So when we think about the ancient cultures and why they were throwing people into volcanoes, we're starting to put some of the pieces together. The reasons why they were throwing them into volcanoes is volcanoes are on the sacrifice line. And apparently the gods really do require sacrifice in order to keep the world afloat. Oh yeah, fuck, almost forgot. Just as I was saying that, one of the main things I was going to cover almost didn't. You remember that ox that we showed on the slides? Let's show that again. Yeah, where is it? Come on, ox. Where are you hiding, ox? Oh yeah, it's one of my old slides, so I'll have to dig into it quick. No, anyone who's from China has probably already realized this connection, but anyone else who's not from China, I'll try to fill you in a little quick. Oh, that sounded nasty. Alright, sorry for my puns. I've clearly been stuck inside way too long. I'll blame it on that. No, when you got the ox here, remember how I was saying that doing this ox ritual was like a form of alchemy, which would transform you into an immortal light being, so that you could travel all the way to the Pleiades star system and live forever as an immortal? Something that the elite are trying to do again, or maybe just the demons. Maybe the demons are trying to get in, eh? Can you imagine that's their goal? The demons are like, hey, we're going to use humans as hosts, then transform into a light being. Because remember how the fallen angels got kicked out of heaven? They've probably been trying to find a way back in ever since. So that's their goal, is they're going to turn themselves in, or take people as hosts, then use those hosts to transform into light beings and remain attached so that they can get to the Pleiades. I know it's a really fucked up theory, but I kind of just came up with that one on the fly. So anyways, the Chinese culture, here we got another symbol from China to do with the same stuff. I think this was the symbol for heaven, if I had to remember correctly. If anyone's from China, they could correct me, and maybe I'm wrong about that. It's been so many years since I drew it, I forget. I should have really just wrote it down. But anyways, the year in China this year happens to be like you know how they have their own calendar, and it's the year of the ox. And it's the metal ox. So if anyone's familiar with oxes and metal creation is known in ancient times as a form of alchemy. Sort of like how you can transform human bodies into energy. That's also another form of alchemy. That's actually why the peacock is often shown. Yeah, I don't even have the peacock on this one. What the hell? Where's the peacock? Peacock. Must be in the First Nations one. Sorry for this, but it'll help me catch my breath as well. Talking for like an hour and a half straight. Alright, so the peacock. Where is it? Why is it not here? No, it's bad. Ever since I had my severe concussion, I've got I wouldn't call it disability, or this weird thing where it's like, if I look at something and I'm trying to focus on it, sometimes I just can't see it, even when it's right in front of me. And my concussion expert tried to explain it, and saying that, yeah, sometimes when you get concussions, your body will try to avoid like some of the things that are causing the brain synapse overloads or whatever. So it's like it'll try to avoid looking at stuff that's going to cause that from happening. Oh, God. Oh, yeah, it's under Sacred Tree. That's why. Here it is. Alright, so if anyone's noticed, some cultures will often show the peacock feathers at the top, and that's also another bird that was known for alchemy. And they also put the sacrifice here, surprise, surprise. But anyways, this peacock alchemy was that a peacock can eat a poison snake and use alchemy to turn it into good food to eat. So that's one of the symbologies that we've been talking about, is how like the ancients believed in alchemy, turning people into light beings. Well, that's the symbology that we have going on right now for, oh God, why did I remove it off the screen? Is that ox symbology. Oh yeah, that was another one. The base of the temple there, they showed that the sacred tree is based out of sacrifice. It was actually Billy Carson that helped share that one with me. So big shout out to Billy Carson. I know some people make fun of his research, saying it's really out there, but man, some of the stuff he's helped me with, he even came on the show, got me some of the best viewer counts ever for one of my live streams. So big shout out to Billy. I know he's probably not too into the mystical stuff more. He's more of a scientific guy, but yeah, so that's some of the stuff he shared with me. Anyways, the ox, which I still didn't bring on the screen. Where's the ox? The ox. God, I'll have to go all the way to the back. Alright, so that ox that we were talking about, oh, there it is. The 8 of the winged disc. Oh, let's go with the actual ox folder. I made one that shows them all. Ah, fuck, don't have it handy. Alright, well, we'll just go with the regular ox one. Right, so if anyone's familiar... Oh, yeah, there it is. Fuck, I almost gave up, and there it is. Yeah, so the Chinese calendar often put, like, the symbol for heaven and associated with the ox. So this year, like the star system, the Pleiades, the ox ritual that transforms you, the whole sacrifice thing. So yeah, this year being the year of the ox, and the metal ox is basically the year of human sacrifice to achieve some sort of alchemy experiment. So that's why I'm really freaked out about all the world events that are occurring right now. Like, you know how we got the thing we're not allowed to talk about? It's like there's some giant sacrifice that's going to be occurring this year, and who's all lined up for a sacrifice, right? Like all these people in all these big cities. So not to say that to freak everyone out that that's what's going to happen in the year of the ox, praying it doesn't, but That's why I was a little bit skeptical at first to taking this, because I'm like, wait a minute, if there's like a giant sacrifice ritual supposed to be happening this year, I might not want to be signing up to experimental procedures that no one knows how many people are going to die from it. Like, I get it that this is helping with the whole situation on the short term, like less serious cases, less being hospitalized and all that, but what happens if there's something more that comes from this down the road that's even worse than the virus itself, right? So praying that's not what's going to happen, but I really didn't want to finish the show on such a negative note. But just to give everyone an idea of some of the symbology that's going out there. Oh yeah, and they were even talking about changing the hurricane names, and they were changing it to, what is it? I think, yeah, they were saying that they're gonna change it to star patterns or whatever. And the star pattern that they showed when in the discussion talking about, they showed this one. So isn't it funny that a news article would say, hey, we're gonna change all these storms and start calling it after something else? Why don't we call it after this? It's like, what, you're gonna call the storms that go around killing people and name it after the sacrifice ritual? That's really weird. But yeah, that was one of the stories. I don't know if anyone caught it in the news. It came out like a month ago or something. They're like, oh yeah, be prepared. We're changing all the hurricane names, and now we're going to name them after these things. Yeah, so that's just the to finish up the show. It's like, I can't say that all the information I have is bang on the money. A lot of it, you can tell I'm just learning on the fly as we go. So if anyone wants to tune in for more shows like this, make sure you let me know in the chat. If anyone's got their own ley line research that they want to share. I've already had Art on the show. He said he might come back in the future. I know my stuff is pretty wild, so he'll probably want to stay clear of it just because he does have a pretty good scientific background that he's putting on the line by even discussing ley lines to begin with. Like, he ran for, what is it, a politician to be governor of California against Schwarzenegger. So yeah, he's definitely got a big career. I know he said he kind of got out of politics, but still, once you put that much work into something, it's very risky to get involved in this kind of stuff. Like, I even talk to academics about my research in this, and obviously 99% of them are like, oh god, this is bullshit. It's all like pseudoscience. But occasionally I get like top-notch academics, can't give their names, but they've communicated with me in private and said, holy shit, man, like, keep going on this. It's like their mind is blown. And I'm like, if even one academic says that, I'm like, hey, maybe I should keep working on this, right? Yeah, I know a lot of it seems like so wishy-washy and stuff, but I try not to get too worked up about different conspiracies. Like, really the only conspiracy I truly believe in is the creators. Like, him creating a planet, everything going according to a plan. I try not to get involved in like other like evil conspiracies with like men behind curtains or whatever. I don't really believe in that too much. Like I was saying before, I don't even think really the Freemasons that are that evil. There's going to be some good ones, some bad ones, and probably some that are possessed by demons. But anyways, let's finish on Pac-Man. And I always thought that was funny how when you put the continent there, it almost makes like if I drew a circle around this would be Pac-Man. Yeah, so we'll finish with Pac-Man. Manny Pacquiao is retiring from boxing, so he won't be sacrificing himself anymore. So shout out to all the people. I know I've got a lot of viewers in the Philippines. Thanks everyone for watching. If anyone in the Philippines has got information about ley line and sacrifice sites that they want to share, just let me know. Maybe we could do a Philippine special. All right, so shout out to Manny Pacquiao. Appreciate you for giving so many of your years of life to all those amazing fights. You almost beat Mayweather with one arm. Oh, we got another viewer tuned in. Oh, Gelton's back. He dropped his wife off. He says, makes sense. The world runs on sacrifice, and nowadays it's just dressed up as something else. Yeah, that's what I worry about too, is like the Area 51 caller was saying. A lot of the scientists, a lot of the government, a lot of the military, they know all about this stuff, but how could they really tell anyone, right? Like, I even get choked up telling anyone, and if I had a career, it would be down the tubes. Luckily, I'm just mowing lawns and have been a janitor for most of my life, so I don't really have any big career that I'm risking sacrificing sharing this information. So that's why I think a lot of the other academics, well, not a lot, the very few academics that agree with my work, they're like, yeah, you should share it because sure as hell we can't. Like, I'm risking probably getting my YouTube channel taken down, losing my only source of income, but No, I still work in part-time, like I'm doing slight little bit of work, sacrificing my life to actually help look after my uncle and carry him to the washroom 3 or 4 times a day. Not really making a whole bunch of money. But yeah, sometimes that's what life is all about, right? Like you got to sacrifice in order to gain something back. And who knows, maybe that's what the universe really functions on. Like we have the sacrifice built in right to what we eat. Like we literally have to kill and eat animals to survive. Unless you're vegan, you've managed to pull it off with supplements, but that's a very rare circumstance. Like most people, our lives are literally built on sacrifice. So why would anything else not be built on sacrifice, right? They say like themes in the universe tend to repeat over and over and over again. So who knows, like maybe the very creator that created our entire universe, not only did he sacrifice his only son, but maybe there was some sort of self-sacrifice where he killed himself to create the very universe that we exist in. Who knows? That might explain why God hasn't been around in a while. No, and if anyone's wondering the time dilation between the Pleiades star system, like heaven and earth, I think what did the Bible explain it as? That they age, or no, we age 1,000 years for every day in heaven. So really, if God was gone and he hasn't required any sacrifice for a while, even if it's thousands of years passing here, that would only be a couple days in heaven. So that's why I try to look at how maybe this sacrifice stuff isn't going to happen in our lifetimes. Let's hope it's not, and a lot of these giant sacrifices will be some future generation, 1,000 years from now. Let them suffer. No, just kidding. Pass the problem on to the next people. I swear I never do that at work. I own up to all my mistakes. Right, so yeah, and if anyone wants to see some more of the planetary research, how the different planets line up with these ley lines, or if you got any cool KMZ file or KMZ files you can share, maybe we'll do a show about it in the future. And I can also take callers via Skype and through my Discord page. So if people want to call in on either of those and talk about the show, just let me know. We can arrange something in the future, or just call in during one of the live ones. All right, so let's give a big round of applause for everyone that joined the show today in the chat. So we got really gross. So it's Gelton Inc. So if anyone wants to check out his page, it sounds pretty interesting. Gelton Inc. Maybe he's got some videos. The Potato Memes, one of our video game viewers that like to watch Clone Evolution streams. I know he played some pranks on us in the past saying that he died. But he's back now, so I'm glad he's back and trying no more death pranks. As you can see, I get my fill of those already. All right, so yeah, thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Oh, yeah, and thanks to everyone who helped create the images. If anyone's got any issues with images I shared on the show, I try to take them all from the Wikipedia pages. So if you want to look up the images I showed, try checking Wikipedia. I know I didn't go over the sources for all of them. If anyone wants them taken down, just let me know. All right, so let's give a shout out to everyone in the chat. Oh, yeah, I forgot my soundboard broke today. I don't know what happened. I'll have to try to fix it. Let's see if we can do the applause. All right, so thanks everyone, and I guess we'll share some of the stuff that I work on. So if anyone's not into affiliate link stuff, just tune out now. But if you got a chance to continue watching, help some of the stuff that I work on, here's what it is. All right, so thanks again to my patrons list: Suki, Dan, Jim, Ray, Travis, and everyone else at Patreon. I think I got plans to start at $1 a month. And we're going to include access to things like private chat within the OnlyFans page. Don't worry, I don't have any XXX material on my OnlyFans yet. Trying to lose weight, and who knows, I might be able to get some more babes watching the show. Or they'll just get horrified and throw up, even worse than the human sacrifice topics. All right, well, let's check out the other ones. All right, so we also got the Patreon. Oh, yeah, and Society 6, finishing quick, is my specialty. It's a saying I put on t-shirts and bed sheets, both popular with the ladies. Hido TV, it'll pay you to watch videos. Swagbucks will pay you to shop. GameKit will pay you to try games. If anyone's wondering how these work, Hido TV is basically a YouTube service called Hido TV, but a separate company, totally different. And they split ad revenue, so it doesn't go just to the creators, it also goes to the viewers. So just the viewers watching the videos, they can make ad revenue. And how you get paid out, you can get paid out in a million different ways. So yeah, I've tried it, works great. swag bucks, and you can do referrals. So if anyone else wants to like share that on their YouTube pages or stuff, you should be able to. I think you can even become a Hideout TV creator if you sign up, and your content will probably have to be less graphic than mine, but yeah. All right, and yeah, if you're doing like video game stuff or travel videos, it's great for Hideout TV. Right, Swagbucks is sort of like an ad service where you know how Google tracks all your purchases and sells it to like marketing companies even without your consent. Swagbucks is basically the same as that, except they get your consent first and they give you a portion of the money back. So how it works out, depending where you shop and where you buy, you can get percentages back, like 2%, 5%, depending what you buy. And the only catch is they send you an email and they ask you to review your purchase. If you liked what you bought, if you would consider buying it again, that sort of market research. So if you're into market research, cash back money, Swagbucks is really cool. And GameKit will pay you to try video games. So basically what happened in the video game industry, if anyone hasn't noticed, most games these days have like unlockable purchases within the game, and they just give the game away free, hope people get hooked on it, and then start making the purchases in the game. So GameKit decided to like say, hey, we'll just pay people to try the free to play games, sort of like a dealer getting people hooked right off the bat by giving them a free trial. So yeah, that's how GameKit works. So like, hey, you want to play the latest video game? You can play it, and if you make it to like level 10, they'll give you a cash payout. Or you can use it for Amazon gift cards or whatever they have for options. So yeah, that's how GameKit works. So if you want to get paid, and you don't actually have to deposit to get the payout, but a lot of cases, if you deposit and start playing the game faster, you can get the payout faster. So that's how GameKit works. And Free Bitcoin is a wallet system for crypto. And you've heard of crypto wallets before. It's where you keep all your Bitcoins and stuff. Well, Free Bitcoin, they have like a wallet system, but they have like loot boxes. So I think every half hour you can click it, open a loot box, and next thing you know, you got some free crypto in your wallet. And BetFury is also the same as that, except they offer cryptocurrencies and everything, like Dogecoin, Ethereum, all the popular ones, or Dogecoin. So yeah, if you want to open some free loot boxes and start collecting without any deposits into Bitcoin or crypto, that's what you can do. And just be careful because they also have casinos. So if you're a gambling addict, stay clear of the casino part. I know I get carried away with gambling, so I stay the hell away from the casino most of the time. Yeah, and then if you get referrals, then those referrals can start building up your crypto wallets even quicker. So I think I'm around like $200 or $300 after a year of doing it, but you know, crypto, it's like a freaking roller coaster, so it could go up or down. So just be careful as hell. Only gamble what you can afford to lose, obviously. Oh yeah, and make sure you follow the regional laws for all these offers, including the virtual mate sex machine. It's for adults and men only, but if ladies need a sex machine, they know who to call. I'm just kidding. But when I'm not kidding, is Virtual Mate sent a coupon code for the show. It's $10 off on a purchase of 150 or more. You just got to type in the words lying BS. And no, it's not lying BS. It's actually the code they sent. LYNBSN. Yeah, and it tracks who all helps me out with that. It gives me referral bonuses, so really appreciate it. You know, with the way the lockdowns are working across the world, I can just imagine Canada is going to be getting some massive lockdown soon. We voted, I think, what was it, 70 per, no, yeah. I think there was only 1 million people in Canada out of a country of like, what, 30, 40 million people that voted against the lockdowns in our most recent election. So there's like a 99% chance we're going into lockdowns for decades to come. So yeah, if you, no pun intended, if you want to get your hands on the Virtual Mate before all this shit hits the fan, you might want to jump on that quick. Oh yeah, and I'm not joking, it's actually a real product. I even got one. All I had to do was send the money. So yeah, I do actually have the Virtual Mate, can confirm it's real. Oh, it gets mixed reviews. Some people love it, some people hate it. So just remember that. Not everyone's going to love it. I know it's not as good as the real thing. Getting closer every year. All right, so anyways, we also got my website and the links below. I think that's about everything. Let's go to the fire screen. Right, if you happen to get any... Oh yeah, I forgot to show my vaporizer commercial, so I'll do that now. We'll come back to this in just 1 second. Now, this is one thing that I worked on for a number of years. The whole project fell apart, but if anyone wants to help and like and subscribe to it, I might get the business started again one day. We'll see. I think I promised to get it going if we got 1,000 people that subscribe to the Facebook page for it, and so far we're at 100. So we're about 10% of the way there, or however that works out. Alright, so let's check out the Vaporizer commercial quick. We'll be right back. Alright, thanks for watching that, everyone. If anyone's wondering basically how that thing works, I took a potpourri machine that you take fresh potpourri, like, what is it, the material, put it in, and it shoots the vapors out into the air, so it can make like vaporizers, sort of like room air freshener. And people that use cannabis realize that you could hook up other pieces to it and put weed in it, so that when it shoots out the vapors, it's not just potpourri and people inhale it. Technically, you're not supposed to use it like that, so just want to clarify that. But anyways, yeah, once the vapors pass through the machine, eventually it collects on the sides of the glass, and then that chamber fills up. So you could end up with potpourri oil or whatever kind of oil you put into it. And the oil that collects in it is basically pure vapors. So it's like, yeah, it's like really potent. So just be careful with that as well. And if anyone's wondering, that's not the fastest way to get like stuff out of cannabis. I know, or perfumes. What I've started to do recently is heat press to get it out. So it works way faster than this thing. So this thing isn't really the greatest, fastest method, but some people are into it. If you want to check it out, just subscribe to the YouTube or the Facebook page. I think you can find it under JVOC pretty easily. I should put it in the description below soon. But anyways, yeah, thanks for watching that. And what else was there? Oh yeah, if you happen to get any gravity well sacrifice lines in your vaporizer and it tastes like shit, give the show a dislike. But if it doesn't happen, you can give the show a like. Really appreciate it. Just make sure never buy the products from my sponsor, because it will ruin your life. Bye for now, everyone. Sorry, soundboard's broken. See you later. Try to fix the soundboard for the next episode. Later. Yeah, thanks for the good luck for the doctor's appointment. Yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for it. It's been going on for a couple of years, and I should have went to it a lot sooner, but Canada had those lockdowns where they closed all our hospitals for cancer screening. So literally, there's like a backlog of millions of Canadians that have all gotten cancer now, and you can thank the lockdowns for it. That's why I kind of really hate lockdowns. It almost does feel like another form of sacrifice, but I know some people love the lockdowns. They can just stay home, get paid forever, and yeah, I can't blame you. It's one of those lifestyles that a lot of people want to embrace these days. But to each their own, and yeah, thanks for watching. Take care, everyone, and good luck. Hopefully everyone's health makes it through lockdowns or virus or even the sacrifice rituals in Afghanistan. praying for you guys. All right, see you everyone. Bye for now.